What's up guys, it's JB from JB Cosplay, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this Shazam Belt. If you want to make your own, patterns are in my Etsy store, link is in the description below, and without further ado, let's get started! Shazam! Alright, so the first thing you're going to need is my patterns for my Etsy store, like I said in the beginning. And once you get those cut out, they should look a little something like this, with the bottom, middle, and the top trim. Now for the top trim, I like to keep this center part just so I can line it up when tracing it out on the foam. First we're starting out in layers from the bottom section. I'm just going to trace it out, then cut it out from 4mm foam, pretty plain and simple. Next step is the middle section. It's a little more complicated. For this one we're just going to take some pins and pin it to some 6mm foam, that way it doesn't move around when we go to trace out the outline and the center patterns. And just trace it out and then cut out the outline from the 6mm foam. Now for these center portions, it's a little more complicated. I like to go really slow and then stick the X-Acto knife straight through, because the width of the X-Acto blade is just about the top and bottom of each center cutout. And then, like I said, going real slow, creeping up to all the corners. Once you've gotten it done, it should look a little something like this. You're just going to repeat that over both parts of the belt. And once you've cut out all those parts, you're going to have all these little pieces which are useless. Totally useless. Just go and toss them. And then we're going to set those middle portions aside, and don't forget to cap your X-Acto blade. Oh yeah, I 3D printed this the other day. I'll have a link in the description for the 3D files for this. Pretty awesome. Now we're going to move on to the top trim, which we're going to cut out of 2mm foam. Again, I like to keep this center portion just to line it all up and get the perfect width for all the trim pieces. So what I like to do is pin all the pieces down and then trace the outline, take away the cutout trim piece, and trace around the center portion. That way we get the exact width for the entire trim. And once those are all traced out, I like to separate the patterns just so they're a little bit more manageable. And we're just going to cut them out. Then once they're all cut out, it should look a little something like this, with the thin 2mm trim piece and the center portion. And we're just going to repeat the same step on the other part. Now we're going to use another piece of scrap 2mm foam and cut out the top trim for the middle section above and below the emblem. Real simple, just a nice close-up shot of the little trim pieces that we're just going to save for later. And now we're working on the middle portion of the belt that's going to have the emblem. I'm just using a piece of 10mm foam I had lying around, but you can just stack a piece of 4mm and 6mm foam and cut the same shape out. And once it's all cut out, we're going to work on the center lightning bolt. Just like the patterns on the middle section of the belt, you want to go real slow and creep up to all the corners. You want to try not to overcut, as it'll cut into the main portion of the foam that's going to be going on the belt. And once you have it cut out, it should look a little something like this. And clear our area, recap our X-Acto blade, and take that center lightning bolt and trace it onto some plastic foam. Now we get to the fun part, gluing it all together. I like to use this Weldwood contact cement. Comes in a big jug and a chip brush. And don't forget to wear your respirator since the fumes are toxic. So let's get started. We're going to apply a thin layer of contact cement onto the top of the bottom 4mm portion, and then flipping over the middle layer, making sure we apply contact cement to the bottom of the 6mm layer. I like to blot the glue around the patterns just so it doesn't creep in and start to fill in those nice cutout patterns. And once we've waited for the glue to dry up mostly and get tacky, we're just going to line up the two layers and stick them together. And we're going to repeat that same step for the other side of the belt. And once you're done, it should look a little something like this. And now we're going to glue on the top trim. We're going to use contact cement again, just because super glue isn't as flexible. Remember, this is a belt, so we're going to be moving around, it's going to be flexing, and it's going around your waist, so you want the glue to be nice and flexible. We're just going to apply glue to the top of the trim and around the edge of the top portion. Now pay attention, don't be like me. Only apply glue to the edge. Don't be an idiot and apply it to the entire top of the belt like me. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't, but I just went ahead and applied glue. It's not the end of the world, since it'll just be covered up with plastic dip and paint, but you don't need it to. And then we're just going to line up the 2mm foam on top and wrap it around the edge. You want the inside of the trim to line up with the bottom of all of these center cutout pieces for the patterns on the belt. And here's another angle showing all of the parts lining up with the trim. Now we're going to glue the trim pieces on the center part we cut out earlier. For this, we're just going to use super glue since this middle part isn't really going to flex or move that much. Super glue works just fine. We're going to apply it to the entire piece of the trim and then just line it up and then repeat it again for the bottom part. Looking nice. Alright, now we're on the last part of the glue up. We're just going to glue the center part to each side of the belt. I had a little bit of contact cement left in my squeeze bottle. I'm just using that and spreading it out with a scrap piece of foam. Then we're just going to let that dry to a tack and glue all the parts together. You want to line it up so the bottom of the center emblem portion lines up with the bottom of each side of the belt. That way all the trim is at the same height. And once everything's together, your belt is pretty much assembled. Last thing you need to do is glue in that center emblem, but I'm waiting till later. The last thing I did to finish off the belt is I just took all the edges to my Dremel just to smooth out all the layers of foam and make it all look like one piece. So it wasn't until I glued everything together, Dremeled all the edges, to see that I messed up on my own pattern. All of these inset pieces, when I was cutting them all out, I guess I got a little distracted and missed one. Right there. Don't do that. It's not the end of the world, as the cape will just be covering up the side most likely, and you won't really see it unless you're really paying attention to the belt. And just like I said in my emblem video, I'm not going to be gluing in this center lightning bolt just because I'm going to be painting them separately before gluing it in. I don't want to have to deal with a whole bunch of interior masking because this lightning bolt is going to be inset in this belt emblem. So I'm going to be painting them separately, then gluing it in before setting up for LEDs. And I will have a video doing all that after I finish the boots, which will be soon. And now let's get to strapping the belt up. No, before anyone asks, this is not the belt that I just made. This is actually my belt that I made right before DragonCon 2018, so last year. But it's a good example of how you can strap up your belt. Since the back is nice and flat on both ends, makes it real flush for a nice smooth connection. But it's really going to be covered by the cape for Shazam, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's even great for any other superhero without a cape. Now I want to show you the inside because that's really what matters. You're going to take the female end of the buckle and glue it flush with one side of the belt on the inside with contact cement and have a nylon strap connecting the buckle to the belt. And you're going to use foam tabs to cover up the nylon, which I did not do on this belt because it was kind of a rush job. The other side shows the foam tabs, at least on one part. And then you're going to want the male end to be free. That way you can slide it into the buckle when it's behind your back, nice and easy. I measured the inside of the belt to be 1 inch bigger than my actual waist, since the belt is going to flex and move it but not going to stretch. But you want to have that wiggle room so that way you can breathe and move around. And that's it for making your own Shazam belt. Again, link is in the description below to my Etsy store where you can pick up these patterns along with Shazam emblem and Shazam gauntlets. I'm going to be posting more patterns there, so definitely go check that out. And consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be making more tips and tutorial videos in the near future, so definitely consider that and check back later. If you like this video, definitely hit that like button. It lets me know I'm creating good content. And if you do make this belt or any of my other patterns, definitely tag me on social. I want to see what you guys are doing. And that's about it for today, guys. This is JB Cosplay, signing out.